In this chapter, you're going to learn how to use React Router to set up different routes in your website so that depending on the URL that someone visits, they'll see different content. And we have a repository prepared that you can clone if you would like to follow along, which I recommend. And that's what I'm going to be doing here, following along with the lesson. So let me bring my terminal over and I will clone this directory and then open it with VS Code. Alright, and so here we are, and it's a basic Vite app with not much changed from the default, but there are several components that are already prepared for you, but most of them aren't being used. Currently, all that we have is a really basic app component that is rendering the header. And let's take a look in the browser. I'll just run npm install first. We need to install all the node modules. Always need to do that if you're going to freshly clone a repo. And then npm run dev. And it will load it on port 3000. We've already changed the port number to 3000. And here is the app that we're working with, Emoji Critic. A nice little jokey emoji review site. So far there's nothing but the header. The first thing that we want to set up is the dashboard component, and this will be what will display on the root route, meaning localhost 3000 when it's in development. To do that, we need to create a route. And before we can do anything with React Router, we need to install it. So go to the terminal and run npm install, or that's a shorthand, react-router-dom @6. Now the @6 suffix means that we'll install the latest release of React Router DOM v6, v6 being the most recent major version release. And if we look in package.json, we'll see that this is actually the version that was installed right here. But if later versions, like a higher minor version or patch version is released, then the next time we go to install things, it would release a later version, but it would pin the version to number 6 here. Okay, so next we have it installed and we can get started. The first thing that we need to do is use the browser router component. This is the outermost component of React Router, and without it, you can't use any of the subcomponents. There will be routes components, which we'll use to define our individual routes, but they all need to be wrapped in a browser router. And so open up main.jsx, and then import. I'll put it up here because it's established practice to keep external imports above imports from your own code. Browser router from React Router DOM, and we're going to wrap it around our app component, just like shown there. And that is all we have to do in main.jsx. Now we can move on to setting up the first route, the root route that's going to serve the dashboard component. And we do this in app.jsx. First step would be to import routes and route. So there's a lot of similarly named components going on here, but browser router is the outermost component, and routes is what you would use to wrap a group of individual route components. And you could have multiple groups of routes per application, but we're just going to have one. We also need to import our dashboard component because we're going to want to use it in the route. So there's dashboard. And you can see the syntax here. It's pretty simple to begin with. We'll put it right below our header and add a routes component, inside of which we're going to add a single route, and that is a self-closing component. We specify its path property to /, which means the root route, and we can specify the element to be dashboard, and that needs to be actual JSX in here. So here's the, this is the syntax. The path just says this is the file path at the end of the URL string. So here we are specifying it to be /, and let me open up this app in a browser, and there we go. It's displaying at /. But now if I changed it to something else, it would not display anymore. But if I went and navigated to that route, yes, it would. So, rather easy, not much to it there for this basic example. And yes, so moving on, we have a practice task here. And this practice task is going to have us set up a couple of additional routes. And I would recommend that you stop the video and give it a try on your own, and then come back and I'll show you how to do it. Alright, so here we're doing the same thing that we did before. We need to import both of these components. Import review from reviews. Oh, it's reviews, not review. Reviews. And import about me. I'm not sure why it's doing that. From about me. And we need a couple more routes. You can just copy and paste that. The first one should be at /reviews. The second one should be at /about-me. And then we need to specify the correct element. And that should just about do it. If we now go back to the browser and navigate to the root route, we still see our dashboard. But then if we go to reviews, we see the reviews component. There's nothing much going on here. It's just a piece of text. And if we go to about me, we see the about me component. Again, just a bit of text. And you can verify that that is indeed the text that should be displayed by checking out what's in the reviews component and the about me component.